Hello everybody, welcome back. Now this is going to be a new video on the RMS Lusitania and what happened to it during its sinking and where it sank. And with that, we're gonna get started today, everybody. Now, to understand what happens to Lusitania, now we have to go back to the 7th of May 1915. The Lusitania was 10 to 50 miles off of Old Kinsale, the nearest land to the Lusitania. And Lusitania the Lusitania was traveling from America to Europe. It was traveling from New York to Liverpool. And 7 days earlier, we have to go back even further to understand the history of Lusitania. On the 7th of May, before the 7th of May 1915, back on like the 1st of May 1915, when Lusitania was setting up to be going off on another voyage, and there was this notice warning citizens about German U-boats blowing up British ships, mostly passenger liners and military liners and all that. And some people canceled their voyage on Lusitania, but overall most people stayed on Lusitania. Going back even further to 1905, well, 1906, the Lusitania, so the RMS Lusitania, the RMS Mauretania, and the RMS Aquitania a few years later was built. And each time these ships were built, these were the biggest and fastest ships. They all had 4 funnels. This encouraged another big ocean liner company called the White Star Line to build a certain other type of ship, a certain other type of class of ships called the Olympic class of ocean liners, which consists of the RMS Olympic, the RMS Titanic, and the HMHS Britannic was built. It was in that exact order. Now fast forward to 7th of May 1915, 2:10 p.m. The lookouts on Lusitania spot the worst nightmare: a single torpedo closing in on the starboard side of Lusitania's bow, and then the Captain Thomas Turner orders hard to starboard, but it's too late. The torpedo strikes the Lusitania on the starboard side below the waterline and opens up like 4 or 5 compartments on Lusitania. And then 10, 20, 30 seconds after the torpedo went off, there was a massive secondary explosion which went off in the cargo holds or the boiler rooms. There's 3 theories to this massive explosion. 1 being boilers exploding, number 2 being coal dust igniting, and 3 being, this is not proven, but it's possible that the Lusitania could have been carrying weapons. The U.S. could have been secretly shipping weapons from the U.S. to Europe to help assist in the World War. And Lusitania, before the secondary explosion happened, Lusitania rocked and then stabilized. Then after the secondary explosion, the Lusitania starts rolling over onto its starboard side, and almost immediately it's got like a 10-degree list to starboard. And it begins rolling over on the starboard side, making the port side lifeboats impossible to launch almost, and making the starboard side lifeboats the only ones they can attempt to launch swing out so far that it's almost impossible to get on them when you launch them. Like, you have to jump. A lot of people fell. Now, out of all of the 48 lifeboats on Lusitania, only 6 lifeboats were launched successfully, including lifeboat number 1 and lifeboat number 24, I think. And the Lusitania, it sort of dropped like a rock to the seafloor. It was gone in only 18 minutes, but let's rewind a little bit. There were 6 lifeboats successfully launched. The other lifeboats either went down with the ship, were floated off or just fell off the deck as the ocean before the ship went down. And a lot of the boats were destroyed. And there were a lot of people inside the ship. The Lusitania lost all electrical power after 4 minutes, and the Lusitania was traveling at near full speed because their engines stopped responding, and they lost all helm control, which means they cannot steer the ship. The starboard is right, port is left, and bow is front, and the stern is the back. Just get that out of the way. When the Lusitania is listing 30 degrees to starboard, by the time the water reaches the starboard side bridge wing. And Captain Thomas Turner is standing on the port side bridge wing, and then there's 2 theories as to what happened, and I'm going to tell you which one that I believe to be true. One being the water washed over the bridge and washed over the port side bridge wing where Captain Thomas Turner was, and sort of washed him away and pulled him unconscious, and he was later found and picked up and survived. But once again, not get too ahead of ourselves here. The first theory says the Lusitania continued dropping down by the head and went up vertical by the time the water surrounding the base of the 4th dome. The Lusitania went down vertically, and the stern was the last thing to go on. The railing, actually. And the second theory is when the water reached the bridge, the ship sort of paused in sinking, sort of stopped sinking, and the Lusitania just dropped. It dropped down, like everything. The entire deck just emerged. It didn't really start going higher and started, it just all dropped. The Lusitania just went level and dropped. And the funnels and masts were the last things to go under. The Lusitania sunk. And I believe the first theory to be true. And with the secondary explosion, it could have been all 3 of those things that could be true. The boiler explosion, the coal dust igniting, and the weapons detonating. Could have been all 3. Could have been weapons detonating and boilers exploding. Could have been boilers exploding, coal dust igniting. Could have been weapons detonating and coal dust igniting. There's a lot of scenarios that could have happened there. It could have been all 3 of those things though. Boilers exploding, coal dust igniting, and the weapons detonating. And Lusitania went down in only 18 minutes after it was hit by the torpedo. There's so many questions as why it went down so fast. And Lusitania is in horrible condition on the ocean floor, which would explain why the weapons detonating caused the horrible damage. And Lusitania went down really fast, and yeah, it's believed that it's possible because they found so many empty shell casings and undetonated depth charges that the British could have blown up the Lusitania in the 1930s. The only thing left is the bow that's partially intact because it was reinforced, but the rest of it was blown up and destroyed. The Lusitania went down and the casualties were high. To be exact, 1,196 died, and there were only 764 survivors. That was a tragedy. An act of war brought on by the Germans. And there were 129 children died on the Lusitania, and 127 Americans died on the Lusitania. But nobody should have died on the Lusitania at all. The Lusitania shouldn't have even been hit by the torpedo at all. It was a passenger liner, not a warship or hospital ship. Hospital ships and passenger ships should not be taken out with torpedoes or mines. In fact, they should be left alone, and only the warships should be attacked. In fact, nobody should have been attacked, but it was a war. And the British Admiralty at one point trying to say that 3 or more torpedoes were hit the Lusitania, but now today they only say 1 torpedo hit the Lusitania. And that's because they were trying to cover up the secondary explosion, or They were trying to cover up if they had weapons on board. But it's believed that the Lusitania could have been carrying weapons from the U.S. to bound for Europe and Liverpool that would help the British win the World War. But the Lusitania was a major reason. There were other reasons too, but the Lusitania was a big reason why the U.S. joined World War I and defeated the Germans in December of 1918. And then the attack of Pearl Harbor is the reason why the U.S. joined World War II, but more on that later. Brought on by the Japanese. But yeah, more on that later. Alright everybody, I'm gonna wrap up the video. Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. It's free and you can change your mind later. Don't forget to share the video with everyone you know if possible. And have a nice day everybody. Or have a nice night everybody if you're watching this at nighttime. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'll see you all next time. Bye.